Hey guys, so my computer has been acting up. I've been having technical difficulties. So I am going to go over what we talked about in Bible study last night so I can post it on my YouTube that you're seeing it on right now. Because I know that some ladies cannot make it, and I think it's really important to have the option to watch it. So we are in Genesis. Let me get my notes out here. You might hear my kids, and you also might hear me coughing. I don't sound the best. Okay. So we are in Genesis. We picked up where we left off from last week. We go through quite a few chapters in Genesis, but it's pretty quickly. And I won't read everything because I think that it goes without saying some of it is a lot of repetition. So we started with Cain and Abel, which is chapter 4 in Genesis. Now, Adam had sexual relations with his wife Eve. And remember, this is after the fall. So Eve probably had a very intense birth, and she became pregnant. When she gave birth to Cain, she said, "With the Lord's help, I have produced a man." She was very excited. Later, she gave birth to his brother and named him Abel. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd while Cain cultivated the ground. And when it was time for harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord. And Abel also brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. So that made Cain very angry because even back then, jealousy was a thing. Obviously, wouldn't you be angry? And you have to think, he was probably a little confused and taken aback by it because this is early in these times. Think about how their brains were working. Think about what they were thinking of. And what he was thinking of is, I gave God a present and he didn't like it, and he liked my brothers, so therefore I'm mad at my brother. That's just how the human brain works, which is part of the fall. So going on to, "Why are you so angry?" the Lord asked Cain. "Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right, but if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you," which it did, because one day Cain suggested to his brother, "Let's go out into the fields." Now, we don't know how long after this it was, but God predicted that he was not, sin was going to get a hold of him. One day, Cain suggested to his brother, "Let's go out into the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him, the very first murder. Afterward, the Lord asked Cain, "Where is your brother?" And the Lord knew. "Where is Abel?" "I don't know," Cain responded. "I don't know." Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You don't know. Am I my brother's guardian? See, with the sass already. With the sass already. Okay, Cain. But the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." And I'm going to read all of this because I think it's really important. "Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has swallowed your brother's blood. No longer will the ground yield good crops for you, no matter how hard you work. From now on, you will be homeless wanderer on the earth." Cain replied to the Lord, "My punishment is too great for me to bear. You have banished me from the land and from your presence. You have made me homeless and a wanderer. Excuse me. Anyone who finds me will kill me." The Lord replied, "No, for I will give a sevenfold punishment to anyone who kills you." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn anyone who might try to kill him. So Cain left the Lord's presence and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So think about this. Even when Cain did such an unthinkable thing, the Lord still, even though he gave him a punishment as he deserved, he wanted to protect him. And I think that is super, it just shows who our God is, okay? So I put that in my notes. Adam and Eve have sons, Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel because of pride and jealousy. Even so, the Lord protected Cain, even though he wanted him banished, which he was. And then Cain has sons, okay? So Cain had sexual relations with his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain founded a city, which he named Enoch after his son, and Enoch had named a son named Irad, and became a father of Mehaziel, and Mehaziel became the father of Methuselah. I'm butchering these, I'm sure. And Methuselah became the father of Lamech, and Lamech married two women. And okay, so then we go down for the descendants. Right after Adam had sexual relations with his wife again, and she gave birth to another son named Seth. And she said, "God has granted me another son in place of Abel, who Cain killed." And when Seth grew up, he had a son and named him Enosh. So isn't that interesting that Cain had a son named Enoch, and then his brother, who was born way after him, had a son named Enosh. That could be confusing. At the time, okay, this is really important. So when Seth grew up and he had his son and named him Enosh, at that time, people first began to worship the Lord by name. So I think that's important. What I was going to say is Lamech, which is a descendant of Cain. I think it's his great-great-grandson. Lamech fathered Noah. And if you know Noah's Ark, you know who Noah is. So I think that is pretty cool. So chapter 5 is a list of the descendants of Adam. And just to point out here, it shows like the sons, because that's how the name gets carried on. And it also shows they were living until like very, very old ages, especially in our times. Like this one says that Lamech lived to 777 years old, so all that very relevant, because now a world gone wrong in chapter 6. Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and the daughters were born to them. The sons of God. I said this last night. I'm going to say it again because it's mind-blowing to me. The sons of God. Pay attention to that wording, because wording is important. So let me read that again. Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and the daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women and took any they wanted as their wives. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not put up with this, humans, for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years. And I think really he means after the flood. We'll go over that, but because people still lived for quite a long time. In those days, and for some time after, giant Nephilites lived on the earth. And for whenever the sons of God had intercourse with the women, they gave birth to children who became heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. I have read this before, multiple times actually, because I started in Genesis when I first started reading the Bible. I have been trying to get deeper into everything that I'm reading, so I wanted to learn. And the sons of God, as it's kind of explaining here, but if you don't want to pay attention, you won't catch it. So the sons of God, meaning the fallen angels who engaged in unnatural sexual relationships with human women, resulting in Nephilim, a unique race of giants. You remember Goliath? That is a Nephilim, correct? Well, how do you think the Nephilims appeared? They are half angel, half human. That's insane. And it made me think of like Greek mythology with like Zeus and Hercules and all the things. And you have to believe that these things were real and have some truth to them because they are in the Bible. And what I mean by that is like there had to be a reason why God got so angry, and that's coming up. So like I said, they had intercourse together and they gave birth to these superhumans. And who else was a fallen angel? I believe that was Lucifer, the most famous fallen angel, right? Better known as Satan or the devil. Okay. And so when you're a fallen angel, I said this last night, we always think of like God made Adam and Eve, it was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but there was also angels. He had angels. And I went back last night and I want to go back again because you have to think. In the Paradise Lost, God's judgment, and this is after the fall, where he says he sent Adam out to cultivate the ground because they were banishing them from the Garden of Eden. And after sending them out, the Lord stationed mighty cherubim to the east of the Garden of Eden, and he placed a flaming sword that flashed back and forth to guard the way of the tree of life. So that is an angel, a cherubim, that's an angel. So he has helpers. So the fallen angels, also, these angels have free will. And so they made a decision that led them to this. In Jude, it says, and the angels who did not stay, it's Jude chapter 1, verse 6. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, because remember, they're workers, like they have free will, so they messed up. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. He has kept them in eternal chains under a gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. So keep that in mind. That's where they went. And the Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth, and he saw that everything they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them down on earth. It broke his heart, and the Lord said, I will wipe the human race I have created from the face of the earth. Yes, I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and even the birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them, but Noah found favor with the Lord. So now we get into the story of Noah. As I said, I think it's kind of cool that Noah is in relation to Cain, like a descendant of Cain, because Cain did such an obviously horrible thing. And yet out of him came such a lovely person, Noah. Okay, so the story of Noah. This is the account of Noah and his family. I'm just going to say that Noah was the father of the three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So Noah had them at 500 years old. So if he had them at 500 years old, you can imagine how old he is now, because on the boat comes Noah's sons and their wives. So now God saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence, and God observed all the corruption in the world. And you can imagine that had to be really bad for God to want to do this, because it was breaking his heart. And Cain killed his brother. Adam and Eve ate from the tree of, the knowledge of good and evil. Like, they did all these things, but now he's wanting to do this. That means it got really, really bad. So keep that in mind. So God observed the corruption. I've decided to destroy all living creatures, for they will live the earth with violence. And yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. So he's telling Noah he needs to build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside out. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high, and leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. And he is about to cover the earth with water, right? Like, it's a thing. So look, I'm about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on the earth will die, but I will confirm my covenant with you. So enter the boat, and you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you, and keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird and every kind of animal and every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. And be sure to take on board enough food for your family and for the animals. So Noah did everything exactly as God commanded. The flood covers the earth. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people on the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous. And take with you 7 pairs, male and female, of each animal I have approved for eating and sacrifice, and take 1 pair of each of the others. Also take 7 pairs of each kind of bird. They must be male and female in each pair to ensure that all life will survive on the earth after the flood. So I said this last night, I think it's pretty interesting that Noah is so righteous that he listens to this and he does everything he said, because it's been said on multiple different researches that I've done. I am safe to say that it took over 50 years for Noah to build the ark. Some people say 120 years. The point is, it took a long time. It was a commitment. And in a lot of the children's Bibles, it says that Noah was like taunted and made fun of and nobody believed him. But it actually doesn't say anything about that in this. I think it's just like, it's obvious, you can infer that no one understood, cared, or believed what Noah was building was of any importance to their evil ways. And it says in Matthew, I found it, so I was trying to look about more information for that. Let's find it here. You might hear my son in a second. Matthew 24, I believe it was, verse 37. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the way that it will be when the Son of Man comes. So we can't know that they said that, but you can assume it, because it's not like everybody was like, they don't say anything about that, and usually they would have mentioned it. So yeah, I think it's really important to understand that Noah was committed and doing everything he needed to do and what God said. And also that he gave him sacrificial animals and animals to eat. And you're going to see later that Noah kept his promise with that too, because I feel like you could get a little bit like go bonkers and be like, oh my gosh, what if we stay here forever? Like what if we need to ration? What if we want to eat it all? Like, what if we get bored? What if this, like, I don't know. I'm thinking of my perspective in 2023, but I'm just saying like it takes a dedicated guy to be able to be so committed and have so much obedience. Okay, so 7 days from now, I will make the rains pour down on the earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights until I wipe the earth of all living things I have created. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded. Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. So that's why I think Noah was 500 years old when he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So if they were old enough to have like wives, I don't know, you're pretty young then, but he's 600 years old. So that's why I'm safer to say it took him 50 years to build the ark. And all that time, the evil was still going on in the world. So God is, when he makes a plan, he makes a plan, because God could have just and been done with us. He could create us again. But like Noah was such a righteous man that God decided he wanted to keep him and his family. He deserved that. He earned that. And I don't think that we are anywhere close to being that righteous. But what I'm saying is he honors and sees and makes note of Noah's righteous. And he is willing, and he knew he would do what he needed to do for him. So instead of just swiping the earth clean and starting over, if he even felt the need to, because gosh, wouldn't it be hard? He did for sure. And he wanted our human race to go on. He just didn't want it to go on the way it was. So, and I also mentioned this last night. That is why the devil hates us so much. The devil, Lucifer, was kicked out because he was too prideful and he wanted everybody to worship him. He was a beautiful singer, a beautiful angel from what I have read about him. And still, God was like, no, because all you're doing is having all this pride, and I can't have that here. So he was not only exiled, but like fully like, nope, you're going to burn, right? And we get so much. Like we get to repent, we get all these second chances. He sacrificed his only son for us, so the devil is not happy with us, you know? Okay. So he was 600 years old. The rain continued to fall for 40 days and 40 nights. And that very day, Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons. And I also said the boat sounded not so big if you think about how many animals were in there. So everybody really held it together, animals included. And the waters rose higher and higher above the ground. The boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. That is high. And at this time, the earth was one full landmass. This flood is what created all the borders and different rivers and oceans and things that we have today. So I think that's pretty cool. So he wiped out everything, and the floodwaters covered the earth for 150 days, because even though it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, you have to think of how much water that is. It takes a while for it to dry up, disperse, go where it needs to go. God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him, and we're in chapter 8 now. He sent the wind to blow across the earth. So like I said, gradually it receded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began, the boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, I think 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down and other mountain peaks became visible. Another 40 days. So it's been a long time. So at this point, at the end, it says Noah was now 601 years old on the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began. So he has been committed to building this ark for 50 years plus. He has spent all this time on it. And now, here we go. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw the surface of the ground was drying, and 2 more months went by. So it's a full year now. And at last, the earth was dry. Then God sent Noah, leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife and your sons and their wives, release all the animals, the birds, the livestock. And you have to think that they didn't procreate for all this time either, because there was no new people that came off that boat. So here you go. They are faithful. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and he sacrificed the burnt offerings and the animals and the birds that had been approved for this purpose. And the Lord was very pleased with the aroma of sacrifice and said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything that they think or imagine is bent toward evil from their childhood. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest and cold and heat and summer and winter and day and night. So he promises to never, ever do that again. So that is really, really cool. And then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and all the animals of the earth. Okay. I'm probably going to get cut off here because I have my babies up here, but that is really the gist of it. The point is that all the descendants are now from Noah and his kids. So they make up the Earth's population, and that's pretty cool. Oh, this is the important part. That God blessed Noah and his sons, and then a rainbow. God placed a rainbow in the clouds. Yeah, and it represented the covenant that God has with his children and of creation. It was like a representation. So I wanted to say, there's a lot of things with the rainbow. Let's take back the rainbow as a representation of God's love for us and his covenant with us and his and his wants to be in a relationship with us. Even he wants this old phone that he uses as a tablet on. You can't have your baby in here. All right, guys. So I went through it. We got through it. Noah is amazing. Let's read more of Genesis next week. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. And I hope this video helped you and blessed you. I love you. Have a great day.